What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Get the Charge podcast, coming to you live on a Sunday afternoon for a quick Q&A today. Wanted to just be able to kind of, refresh and get some of your guys' questions and be able to just have a good conversation tonight. So joining me for that, as always, is my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Doing pretty well. I just need to kind of recover from the emotional roller coaster that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, and sure to scare many children. So I'm doing all right, though. How are you?
Yeah, Brooke and I went and watched that last night as well. I think the Spider-Man No Way Home is still my favorite post-Endgame Marvel movie, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is right up there with that one. I'm not gonna spoil anything, obviously, but that hallway scene at the end, man, was definitely one of the better action sequences that Marvel has put out in quite some time. I'll have to go back and watch it a second time because for me, like the elevator scene in Winter Soldier is like the top action scene that Marvel has done. Obviously, the Russo brothers are fantastic at that. But this hallway scene that they have in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is truly top notch.
Yeah, it was really good. And it was also just a great showcase of what everyone could do. And that was the moment I was watching the movie and going, I don't know if they should make another one without James Gunn. Or, I mean, he said recently, like, if they make another one, no one should try to copy this style. Like, make it your own thing. Don't try to be
Yeah,
James Gunn. And I kind of get that. Or just don't make another one. And I would get that too, because there's so much. I mean, again, I won't spoil anything, but like excitement and liveliness and just the style to it. And I won't spoil anything, but there's something funny they do with like an electric thing that like it's just funny. And it's a style that you love to watch that only he can really do. So
yeah.
yeah, good movie overall.
Yeah, and it's a good blend because I think a lot of Marvel movies can get kind of stale from time to time, but it's James Gunn and popping in, Russo brothers popping in every once in a while. Make sure you keeps you on your toes. So if
Mhm.
you haven't seen the movie and you're a Marvel fan, what are you doing? You should definitely go check that out. But it's a good watch for sure. Okay, so we're gonna have about an hour of time today for you guys to ask some questions. Anything you guys want to talk about, whether that's Marvel, food, golf, whatever you guys want to ask us about, we're here to answer. So we'll take about an hour of questions. As always, if you prefer or if you don't mind doing a super chat, we would greatly appreciate that as well. So we'll get to a few questions here in a minute. Just some housekeeping business as well. If you missed my interviews with the Washington State and USC 247 sports writers about Deion Henley and Tuli Tuipulotu, please go check those out. There's a lot of great background information on those two players and things to get excited about in terms of their potential in the NFL. And then obviously this upcoming Tuesday, we will be dropping, well, not we, jointly with the Chargers, we'll be dropping our interview with Tom Telesco on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. So very excited to see what you guys have to say about that particular interview. Tyler and I had a great time with Tom. He gave us a lot of great intel information and just a really unique peek behind the curtain to the way that the Chargers do things from a draft perspective. So that'll be out on Tuesday, and hopefully you guys check that out.
Yeah, please check it out. We're so close to one of our videos on there getting to 10,000 views. I think both of them are like just barely almost there.
Yeah.
Not that that's what it's all about, but sometimes you just want to cross that threshold to say you've done it. And yeah, please check out the interview. I know it's not going to be for everyone. There's already a section of the internet that's like, did you ask him why he wasn't fired in 2016? Like, guys, what do you think I'm going to do with the GM?
Yeah.
We thought we'd have him on for 10 minutes, honestly. You never really know how much they're going to say, how much he's going to offer. And again, I expected 10 minutes and like a max of 3 questions from each of us. And we ended up going for 20 minutes. And so he was really, really gracious with his time, really, really generous with his knowledge. And I know a lot of Chargers fans are frustrated with him. And I understand that I started being a season ticket holder when he started being the GM back in 2013. So I get the frustrations. I've been to the games, but I'll be honest, he's really, really likable and he's very, very smart. And like, obviously, he's very
Yeah.
smart. Again, Chargers fans can get very frustrated with him, but at the end of the day, this is a good guy. This is a very smart guy. And I did really enjoy talking to him and hearing what he had to say.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of questions in there that we were really excited about, getting his takes on just how maybe things have changed for him over time, and how, specific they can be with certain things. I think you also get a really cool peek into his relationship with Brandon Staley, and how the two of them are really working together and collaborating on these kind of decisions when it comes to the draft and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a good interview. Hopefully you guys tune in for it, because there's genuinely a lot of great insight there.
Yeah. One thing I do want to add, and Victor's asking this because I've been asked this, like, can you not criticize the GM because of where you're at and all that sort of stuff? No, yes, we can. There's no barrier or anything barring us from criticizing anybody. To me, what the interview really came down to was, what is the point of me doing, like, run this through your head. You're going to interview Tom Telesco and you're going to ask a question. Okay, why haven't you won game in 10 years? Oh, well, this isn't that. Okay. Why haven't you done this with the whatever? Okay, this isn't that. And basically, you've wasted the first 5 minutes of what you think is a 10-minute interview. So, in our channel and on theirs as well, the GM is not above criticism. Nobody is. We are allowed to express our opinions like usual. Just in general, the last year, you can even see this with like our draft coverage, or at least with me. I don't go out and like criticize the draft prospects anymore. And those are guys in college, and nothing to do with the Chargers. I'm trying to find out what the good things they are and what they can do and that sort of thing. So we've kind of shifted our, or at least I have I think Steven has as well, like our perspective and how we criticize these guys, because go back and watch how I felt about Chris Rumpf. Like, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't nice. And there's nothing good about that, and I think guys like Justin Herbert, guys like Trey Pipkins have taught us so much. So I think overall, the way we are approaching the Chargers in general has changed a bit, and draft picks as well. But no, he's not above criticism. But at the same time, I wasn't going to ask him questions that were going to waste his time that he's already been asked 10 times before. I wanted to know about very different things, and you're going to hear, I think, different questions.
Yeah.
And I think there's a point in the conversation where I asked him about a certain player and a name that he probably didn't expect to be asked about. And you can see the moment where he's like, okay, like, I didn't expect, like, he didn't say this, but you could tell there was a pause, and he mentions it. And I just thought that was really cool. So didn't waste our time, didn't waste his time. Did we sit there and criticize him? No. But I think reporters and beat writers have already done that so far.
Yeah, I think everything we do across the channel, I mean, we do our best to be subjective or objective here, I guess. I don't really know the difference sometimes, but we're not here to spread hate. We're not here to just constantly shit on people. And like, this was a freaking awesome opportunity for us. Like, why would we not try and maximize that opportunity, that window of time, to be able to interview Tom Telesco and get some great insight for him. So Tyler and I, after we heard that we were going to be able to interview him, we shared a Google Doc with each other, and we listed off like probably 15, 20 questions of stuff that we wanted to make sure we can ask, and it just not be the same kind of things over and over again. So we didn't want to ask him about Justin Herbert's contract extension. We didn't want to ask him about the, Austin Eckler trade report or the lack of playoff success. Like, we were really trying to get, like Tyler said, like new information out there and really kind of provide that peek behind the curtain from his perspective of how the way the Chargers operate. So, there will be times on this channel and on the Chargers channel that we will be, critical of the way that the Chargers do things. That's part of the reason why the Chargers are collaborating with us and agreed to this partnership, is because we can be honest and fair without taking it to that next step. Like, we're not going to come on here and just take a dump all over Tom Telesco's character. Like, that's just not a fair thing to ask of us. So there's going to be some times where we are going to be critical of him, for sure. We were very critical of the way that they handled the wide receiver depth chart last year. I mean, we were critical of the way that the playoff game ended, and the Chargers still wanted to work with us. There's that line there of being fair, being objective, and just being somebody who wants to drive a rhetoric that's a more hateful tone than being objective.
Yeah, and there's also a time and place. Like, we just wrapped up the draft, and I thought it was a good draft, so I asked him about how they drafted. And so it's like, if this were middle of the season and they were on a losing streak, I think the questions could be very different. And the way we would just talk about the situation in general would be very different. But we got to interview him 5 days after the draft, in a draft that I thought was really good after
Mhm.
watching it. So that's what I'm going to ask him about. How did you evaluate tackle to guard converts and stuff like that? Like,
Yeah.
that was more important to me at this particular time too. Asking about the playoff loss from January or the
Right.
injuries from 2015, like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, and he's not going to care about those. So anyway, point is, I think you guys are going to enjoy it, but I know that 10% of the internet's going to hate it no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just no point in like they've already addressed the Jacksonville loss several times. Like there's no point in rehashing that. So again, time and place, absolutely. There are certain times where we'll be able to be critical of him and the Chargers and Brandon Staley, but like Tyler said, it was all focused on the draft for the most part and just kind of getting that peek behind the curtain. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. All right, so we'll jump into some other questions here. Obviously, the schedule release is happening on Thursday. I can't wait to see what the social media team has, cracked up for the release this week. Ben Jones wants to know, Tyler, what would our preferred Week 1 game be? Consider we have won 4 Week 1 games in a row. Is that true?
Okay, so Washington the previous year.
Last year
but
was
then last
Raiders.
year
Year
was
before that was
Raiders.
Washington. The year before that was Cincinnati.
Yes, with
Tyrod.
Tyrod.
Okay, what was
Or
20?
No, wait. 2022, 2021. Yeah, Tyrod Taylor. Okay, yeah.
So 2019 would have been.
Whew.
Was that the overtime Colts game?
Oh, I think it was.
All right, so shout out to Ben Jones, man. I have a hard time keeping stuff like that in my brain. So, anyways, Tyler, what's your Week 1 preferred matchup this week or this year?
You might have to clarify, or he might have to clarify whether it means home or away. But if I just had to just pick like one of the players, or excuse me, the teams that they're facing, I'd love Green Bay early. That's an away game, so if I can go to Green Bay early on, that sounds really great. In terms of matchups, I mean, I would love to play the Chiefs like right away. Do they play the Jaguars? No, they don't.
No.
Maybe the Lions before they get Jameson Williams back. Like, I'm trying to find ways that help out the Chargers. They play the Bills at home, so I'm not worried about that part as much. So yeah,
weather
I
perspective,
think,
you mean?
Yeah. So Packers early because of the weather. Lions before they get Jameson back and really figure out, I think, their sort of identity with 12th overall pick Jahmyr Gibbs. And I don't know. Can I just not play the Patriots? Can we just not do that this year?
Yeah, I think that's a sound logic. I mean, any of the East Coast games, so Patriots, Jets, Packers, those are good ones to get out of the way early. Just from a sheer entertainment perspective, I would love to see the Ravens be the opener. Get Herbert and Lamar. I think that would be, that would be an awesome, just like entertainment value matchup. From a strategic standpoint, you mentioned a few of those other ones. Starting off with maybe an easier team would be cool. So maybe like the Bears or the Titans, get into a rhythm early. But, I assume that there's going to be a divisional game early on in the Chargers schedule. I mean, last year it was Raiders and Chiefs like back to back. So
yeah,
maybe that's something. Cowboys at home again this year. That's a sneaky primetime game in my opinion. Like, not a lot of people, because I sent out the tweet yesterday, not a lot of people said the Cowboys. But I mean, obviously it's the Cowboys, right? But also there's like the Kellen Moore intrigue, and there's a lot of like entertainment value there. So I think the Cowboys at home would be fun. So yeah, those are a couple ones.
Do the Cowboys always host the Thanksgiving game, or does it kind of flip flop?
Yeah, Cowboys always host Thanksgiving.
Okay, so they play the Cowboys at home, so it wouldn't be that. I'd love to see the Chargers play the Cowboys at Thanksgiving because that goes well.
Yeah, that was fun. The last time was fun. Next one here, Brandon Arias. You guys think QJ could win Offensive Rookie of the Year? So we talked a little bit about just kind of like his role with the team on our Chargers episode on Tuesday. I think first of all, him winning Offensive Rookie of the Year probably requires an injury in front of him.
That's my first thought too.
If everybody on the Chargers stays healthy, the answer here is no. But if an injury happens early to one of the receivers, then then yeah, there's a chance.
Yeah, I agree with Steven. If there's an injury, there's a chance. And so I guess what I'm saying is I hope he doesn't win. But I hope, again, the way we talked
Yeah,
about it was he's going to improve the Chargers' overall efficiency, red zone, third down, whatever. But he's
100%.
not going to contribute 1,500 yards this year. And again, I hope he doesn't, because that means somebody else got hurt. Unless for some reason we're going to get 3 receivers over 1,000 yards and he leads them or something. So I think he's going to be flashy. I think people are going to love watching him, and he'll certainly be. I'm curious where he is at actually in terms of front runners for offensive rookie of the year. I'm sure it's the quarterback, Bijan,
Are there
maybe
odds for that
Zay or
already?
something. I'm sure there is. So I think he's going to put up good numbers. I think there's going to be, let's say, 5 games where he's a wide receiver 2 in this offense. But yeah, I don't think he's winning offensive rookie of the year. And I don't think he should be considered in front of, I guess it depends. Like, I like Herbert's throwing more than Lamar Jackson, but Zay has less in his way. So I don't know. If you traded Austin Eckler and one of the tight or the receivers gets hurt, then maybe. But again, he's maybe not even third on the depth chart in terms of targets thrown his way, and he might even be 5th depending on how they feel about Gerald Everett. So
Yeah,
we'll see. It's just not this year.
right. So there's decent odds for Quentin actually, but I mean there's 3 quarterbacks that are going to be starting games this year. I mean obviously there's Bijan, there's Jahmyr Gibbs, who both of those guys are going to get a lot of touches. So Bijan is the current favorite right now at plus 300. So he's not like a runaway favorite, but he is the favorite. Bryce Young is second. Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, and Jackson Smith and Jigba round out the top 5. And then it's Gibbs, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, and then Quentin Johnston is next after that. So he's in the top 7, but he's not considered like a favorite by any means. I think, like we're talking about, I think it's an efficiency thing. I think it's an explosiveness thing. But from a sheer like statistical standpoint, like if everybody on the Chargers stays relatively healthy, best case scenario for Quentin is probably like maybe over 700 yards and like 6 touchdowns ish. And again, lots of efficiency, lots of explosive plays. But, just from the sheer volume, like he would have to get like 90 catches to be able to like really push Bijan and the quarterbacks and make it like a legit case for him.
Do you guys remember when Eddie Lacy won Offensive Rookie of the Year over Keenan Allen? That was fun.
That was fun. Oh my gosh, man. Eddie Lacy. I traded for him on my fantasy team on a keeper league after that. I think I traded like Mike Evans for him, and because I like was desperate for a running back, and there were some other like players involved too. But I got one good season out of Eddie Lacy, and then he got fat and got out of the league like ASAP. So that was fun.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. Any chance? Okay, then that Darius Davis is a Pro Bowl returner for the Chargers this year?
Ooh, no, that's a good question there. I'm trying to think. Last year was Devin Duvernay
and Turpin for the Cowboys.
Turpin, well, NFC, but I would say yeah. I mean, if he gets a couple touchdowns, like definitely, he's going to provide some explosiveness and a lot of excitement for them. But that's an interesting question. I wonder what the odds would be for that one.
Yeah, he's certainly one of the more well-known returners off the bat, which I think does help. That name recognition definitely helps. So maybe.
Yeah. Couple of questions from MSN Shades. How long do you think it'll take Quentin is solidly wide receiver 3 in the lineup? Athir also asking a similar question. Is QJ will take wide receiver 3 from Palmer? I believe he should, but your thoughts, please. So we talked a little bit about this on our Tuesday show with the draft superlatives. We both are on the same page that it's not going to be handed to him, but at the absolute latest, like week 1, he's definitely the wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I'm curious what it was like. I have to go back and remember what it was like for Mike Williams, because they had Keenan, they had Tyrell, they had Antonio Gates, they had Hunter Henry from the year before. Not that he was a receiver, but and Mike Williams finished with 95 receiving yards, but I think that was more of like an injury struggle sort of thing. Yeah. So it's tough because again, I don't think I recall a moment where a first rounder has been in line to replace a player that I think was so good for the team. Like Josh
Mhm.
Palmer is going to be wide receiver 4, and he had almost
Right.
800 yards last year. Like that's not really what the Chargers have had before. It's always just like a blank spot to insert that first rounder. Instead, it's like he actually
Yeah.
has a person who can legitimately hang in the NFL and put up numbers. So it probably won't be week 1, although they did push. It's tough to judge because Josh Palmer was wide receiver 3 immediately last year. There was no competition. There was no Jalen Guyton switching in and out. It was just Josh Palmer wide receiver 3.
Yep.
So on the one hand, it's like Quentin Johnston could do the same thing where it's like, we're going to put our guy in. We drafted him at 21. Here we go. At the same time, Josh Palmer was wide receiver 3 unopposed last year. So I don't think that they think that Josh Palmer is wide receiver 3 long term, or at least in the long term of a short term of a year. But at the same time, they do really like him. So I think it's going to be a week, 2 weeks, maybe till he puts on pads. I don't know. I forget how long it took for Asante Samuel Jr. to be wide receiver, or excuse me, corner 2, but it was like a week and a half of panic among Chargers social media. And then it was like, oh, nothing ever happened. And they cut face on.
Yeah. Yeah. With Asante, it was maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. It is going to be interesting. Like we expect Josh Palmer to, put up a good fight. Like Josh Palmer's not going to go away. Like he's not just going to sit back and be like, oh yeah, Quentin, take my spot. But just like from a balance standpoint, like it makes too much sense to have Quentin out there. It just gives him something different at that backside Z spot. But Josh Palmer's going to play, man. Like they really, really like Josh Palmer. And, I know there's a certain part of the fan base that is very low on Josh Palmer for whatever reason. But if you go back and look at some of the advanced numbers from him, ESPN does an open score and a catch score. And Josh Palmer's open score is really, really good, man. It was like 75th percentile, and it was higher than Keenan Allen. So I'm not saying Josh Palmer is better than Keenan Allen. Definitely not. But Josh Palmer's a good player, man, and he's not just gonna let Quentin come in here and hand him the position. So Josh Palmer is gonna put up a fight, and he's gonna play a lot. So that should be exciting for Chargers fans because last year it was like for whatever reason only 3 receivers were playing each single week, whether that was the main trio, whether that was with DeAndre Carter in there, whether it was with Michael Bandy in there. There was like no rotation whatsoever, and so this year the Chargers should be able to rotate 5 at least 4 minimum, and we'll see about the 5th. But Palmer's going to play, and he's going to carve out a role for himself too.
I'm curious what they're going to do in terms of the reps for the veterans because Mike Williams is banged up. He finished season banged up, like a pretty rough injury. Keenan Allen struggled the whole season, even though he was fine during the preseason and offseason. So I'm really curious if we can't even tell really until we get to, week 1 of the actual season because, for the most part, it could be Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, and let's say Jalen Guyton out there as your 3 wide receivers. And they could do that a lot more this year to try to get in some work with those guys and see what they have.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we got Izzy Mercado asking about Ezekiel Elliott. He wants to do a 2-year deal with 1-year ripcord. They normally carry 4 running backs anyway. So there hasn't been a ton of buzz between the Chargers and Ezekiel Elliott. I think a lot of people maybe looking at the running back position as a spot that could use some upgrading for the Chargers. What would you make of Ezekiel Elliott being the RB2 with the Chargers?
I have yet to see a metric that indicates, or at least from Arjun, that indicates that this would be a good idea because of the kind of downswing of his career at this current moment.
Yeah.
At the same time, you look at the depth chart and go, how do you feel about any of these guys either? What do these guys look like in full action? We don't even know, other than Austin Eckler. And Eckler could still be traded. So I guess I'm fine with it in the end. It's kind of a wash at that point. Like I would understand why you'd add a running back who knows your system, who is at least more known and certainly more proven, even though that was a while ago, than someone like Kelly, than someone like Roundtree, than someone like Spiller. I think they'll do what they did last year. I think they're going to go into camp and look at Isaiah Spiller and look at Joshua Kelly, and then also know for certain that Austin Eckler is not gone by that point. I think they're going to look at the guys that they have and go, okay, has Spiller developed into a guy that we can trust? Yes, we're not getting Ezekiel Elliott. Like we invested too much in him. Let's go. Same with Kelly and obviously Eckler. If they look at him and go, this isn't working, yeah, then I could see them going to someone like Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll want to see, what exactly they have, and specifically in Spiller, like they were not in any rush to develop him by any means, but if he had really shown, the true capabilities of being that RB3,
Mm-hmm.
then Sony Michel is that signing never happens.
Right.
That's just the bottom line there. If they feel comfortable with him, if they feel comfortable with Joshua Kelly, then they'll move forward with those two guys behind Austin
Mm-hmm.
Eckler. But that's kind of the pattern for me, is that Brandon Staley and this staff, like they want to give these guys chances. Maybe that same kind of thing applies to JT Woods. I don't know. I feel like running back is much easier to find down the road.
Yeah.
But they're going to give these guys some chances, and I think that we're going to talk on our Chargers episode on Tuesday about the second year players and specifically those two. But they're not going to rush anything at running back. Like this regime has not shown that they place a ton of urgency on like going and spending premium resources. Not to say that Ezekiel would cost, premium resources, but at this point, I would just rather, feed into Joshua Kelly than run it back with Zeke. I think at this point, Joshua Kelly is probably the same kind of level that you'd get out of Ezekiel Elliott at this point in his career.
Yeah. And then does Ezekiel Elliott play? Well, I guess he'd be RB2, but like, does he play special teams? Like, did he ever do that for the Cowboys?
No,
Because
that would still be Kelly. Like Kelly would be your special teams back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. No, Chris, we're not bringing Melvin Gordon back.
Absolutely not. All right, so I'm not like at the bottom here. So if there's a question near the bottom that you like, you can definitely bring one up. But so Rodrigo,
sorry,
that's okay. Super chat from Mama Shun. She says, which draft pick have you warmed up to the most? Originally less impressed, but after further review, you're on board.
I feel like we both might say Quentin Johnson here.
Yeah,
I didn't watch Tuli Tuipulotu too, so I couldn't tell you how I felt at the time. But I think it is Quentin Johnson. And at some point, however we feel, looking at what Arjun brought up, because I asked him, like, hey, what does it look like in terms of, yards after the catch per reception, missed tackles forced rate, that sort of thing? What does all this look like? And when Arjun paints a picture where it's like, geez, these numbers are a lot better than I thought.
yeah.
It just started to make more sense. So I would say Quentin Johnson overall. The other players I just either didn't watch or I have felt the same. But yeah, Quentin Johnson, I think. I would also know my mom's a big fan.
Nice. Yeah, that has to be the pick. I mean, I didn't watch Scott Matlock. I didn't watch Jordan McFadden before the draft. So those ones I warmed up to in the sense that like I watched the film and I could see the vision and I liked those players, but I liked Thule good enough. I liked Deion Henley good enough. I liked Davis obviously as a returner well enough, and so Quentin was definitely the answer here for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Rodrigo asking, with the schedule release on Thursday, lots of schedule questions today. How many primetime games do you think the Chargers will get? He thinks 4 or 5, and he would personally love them being the Jets, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs on primetime.
The Jets is an interesting one. Okay, that's Aaron Rodgers, huh?
Yeah.
They'll do the Chiefs for sure. It'll probably be the Raiders because I feel like that's also every year. Like Chiefs and Raiders feels like a lock. Bills maybe. There's so many games, and honestly, the NFL benefits when the Chargers are on primetime. Whether it's good or it's bad, it's always a really good game. So I think the NFL is going to put 4 games out there. So Chiefs Raiders is pretty much a lock. I could see Bills because of the quarterback versus quarterback. The Jets win is interesting. I just don't know if anybody cares. Like, I'd love to see that. I don't know who's really watching that one for like, oh, Chargers versus Jets. I don't know if anybody cares.
Yeah, I feel like from the Jets perspective, it's going to be a lot of guys like obviously their division and then like teams that Aaron has a history against. I don't know their schedule off the top of my head, but like I'm pretty sure they play a couple NFC North teams, so it's like, yeah, like that makes sense. Them against the Vikings or something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, they'll have a good amount for sure. I'm really curious what the scheduling release is going to look like. I don't know how you top up last year. I don't know what you could do. I almost feel like it's just going to be a disappointment. But that team, if anybody can do it, and repeat, it would be them because they crushed it last season.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely one of the Chiefs games is going to be prime time. I mean, those
Yeah.
games do ridiculous ratings every single year.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the Ravens game. I would love for that to be a
Mm-hmm.
primetime game. Sunday night, Monday night situation would be really cool. I think the Lions are incredibly fun, but I don't really think that will be one. If I had to like guess and predict, I would say one of the Chiefs games.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Bills game,
Yeah.
just like quarterback matchup, and both teams who are really good, trying to be AFC contenders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think there's a chance of one of the Broncos games ends up as a primetime game again
Oh yeah,
with
yeah.
Sean Payton and all that
Yeah.
dynamic.
Huh.
I don't think there are a lot of people who because I tweeted this question out yesterday, and a lot of people said the Dolphins. I don't think that game did super well last year, and so I would have a hard time with that one. I think like the marquee games for the Chargers are Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Cowboys. Like I think those are probably like the four biggest games for them, but those are all home games. I mean, you could do at Arrowhead, but um, their road games aren't necessarily like top notch from a primetime perspective.
Yeah, like Titans, Vikings.
The Packers are going to be bad this year.
Yeah, I'd love to watch those games on prime time. And listen, I'd love to take like a not so great team on prime time, but
100%. 100%.
um, but yeah, not the best away schedule for the Chargers in terms of prime time.
Yeah. Yeah. The Jets are interesting because of Aaron, but I don't know if that's like
Right.
a primetime draw. All right, next question here from Jared. He says, with the lack of a blocking tight end, do you think Xander Horvath has a chance to take on a bigger role on offense? So this is something I'm very curious about with Kellen Moore, because the Cowboys did not have a fullback like ever under Kellen Moore when he was an offensive coordinator. They would do a lot of H-back work with the tight ends. They would do the Hulk package with a 6 offensive lineman a good amount. So he hasn't had a true fullback. Maybe that he gets some more running back touches. I don't necessarily know, but very curious to see what Kellen Moore has in store for Xander this year.
Yeah, people have asked this, like Xander would transition to an inline blocking tight end, and I don't. Did he do that in college? He barely had blocking reps as a fullback, period. So I
Yeah.
don't recall many like even inline tight end reps. I'm sure I could look that up. But I think in college he had less than 100, maybe fewer than 100 blocking snaps as a fullback. So in the run game. So yeah, I don't know. No, he's not going to be their blocking tight end. He's not going to be a new blocking tight end for them. I'll say that much.
I think you could give him a bigger role for sure. I mean, he was injured for a little bit at the end of the season there. He could do the H-back role for you, but I think he's probably more of I would say there's a greater chance of him like catching more passes this year and being a
Totally.
weapon than being like a blocking tight end. And I don't think that's necessarily what Jared was specifically asking in terms of the blocking, but I do think that we'll see a bit more of Xander this year than we did last year. I mean, he was very involved in like the first month of the season and then didn't do like anything after that.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, it wasn't pretty all the time. I understand that, but I think now in his second year, with some games under his belt, some touchdowns there as well, I don't see why his role wouldn't increase with this team. Yeah, they didn't add. Well, you know,
Okay. Yeah, I
it's
know.
yes.
I know. I gotcha. All right. Next one here from Jacob Finasso. I hope I'm saying that right. He pointed out that an anonymous executive on The Athletic said Quentin Johnston is like a slightly smaller DK Metcalf. What do you make of that comparison?
Okay, so I didn't watch DK Metcalf coming out of college, nor do I really ever watch
It
Seahawks
was
football.
it was like basically the exact same role as Jonathan Mingo, but bigger and faster.
Oh, I mean that's kind of some Quentin Johnston, I guess. I don't know. I really dislike these comparisons overall because the other 90% of the internet thinks he's Mike Williams. So, like, if it feels like the DK Metcalf comparison is better than the Mike Williams one, but I haven't
Sure.
watched DK, so I really couldn't answer this one.
Yeah, I do think that Quentin shows off. I didn't grade DK, but I remember the whole thing about him was like he was stiff, not a great route runner. He's mostly like a go ball guy. And I think Quentin can do more than that. I think Quentin's a better route runner, I think, than he is given credit for.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, we've seen some free agency questions. Marquise, Joseph Opposition Group, do you think the Chargers need to add before minicamp? Nathan Rivera also asking about Leonard Floyd. So the Chargers roster currently stands at 88 players, which means, I mean, theoretically they could cut somebody, but they have 2 current openings. We actually shared a little bit of potential free agency rumor in the Discord yesterday. But we talked also earlier this week about the safety position. I think for me, like from a depth perspective, I think offensive tackle is still something I would see like to be addressed. And I think safety definitely something I would like to see addressed as well.
Yeah. Same thoughts as we talked about before. Same thoughts as you. Safety, backup tackle, or some sort of swingish option that is like actually played tackle in the NFL before. So yeah, tackle, safety, blocking tight end, any of that.
Yeah, and as it pertains to Leonard Floyd, like I think they're good at edge. Like I think like in their opinion they're good at edge with Thule and Chris Rumpf. I think Leonard Floyd probably still commands a pretty good size like 1-year deal. A lot of people have pointed out that the Rams former defensive coordinator, who was at the Broncos last year, is currently with the Panthers. Panthers have a pretty big need at edge as well. So that's something that could happen for Leonard Floyd. I think for him, like you're probably doing like a 1-year, $10 million deal kind of thing. And I don't think the Chargers could really make that work. And also at that point, like you're pushing Thule down the depth chart, which is really like how do you want to balance the whole like veteran thing and Thule's development?
Yeah, I don't even know if Leonard Floyd would want to join the Chargers. Well, no, you pay him $10 million, maybe he'll consider that and sit on as a third string or third rusher on the team.
Right.
But I don't think that's what he'd be looking for. I'm not against it. You know, adding another edge rusher or bringing back Kyle Van Noy or whatever. I'm not opposed. If they want to find more ways to use the rest of their cap and add depth, I'm all for it. If that's edge rusher, cool. I just don't know if they would at this point. I think they invested too much in Thule. And I guess in some respects, Chris Rumpf and his 3rd-year jump, like he should be better than he was last year, which was better than what he was as a rookie. So I think they want to see what they have.
Yeah, and the other side of that coin too, like you mentioned, Leonard Floyd would have to want to come sign for the Chargers, and like sure, like yeah, there's the Brandon Staley connection, but there's not a starting role. Like if he goes and signs with the Panthers, he's starting. Like he's gonna get those reps. So that's the same conversation that people have had all the time with like the Jadeveon Clowney thing from the last couple of years. Is like, well, he's not gonna come be a backup behind Melvin Ingram and all those guys. Like so that is something to consider. It's different with Kyle Van Noy because Kyle Van Noy knows that he would be coming in as like a rotational chess piece as opposed to like a true edge 2 or linebacker 1 or whatever.
Did Floyd ever play linebacker stuff for Staley or just pure edge that year?
I think just pure edge. I think I remember him like dropping in coverage from time to time, but not as like an off-ball linebacker.
They should add to the tight end room.
I agree they should as well.
Or Scott says we put Herbert at edge 4. when that shoulder heals up, we'll see.
How long are his arms? I don't even know.
That's a good question. Why don't we look that up on this Q&A Sunday? Herbert RAS. Can't imagine they're short. Let's see. Arm length, almost 34 inches. So he does pass that threshold. Let me run him as a. My computer's gonna die if I try to use the RAS website.
But yeah, it's really slow these days.
It's rough. It's a great resource, except for the part where it kills my computer.
Yeah. I mean, it's always funny to like look at him next to certain players and like really like because we know he's big, right? But like when you see him next to these other guys, it's like, okay, Justin's really big. He's
a big dude. Fitness asking, did you see the JC Jackson picture? I've missed a picture if there was one. Is this an Instagram thing? And is it
I
a
saw there
positive
was
thing? Please.
I saw there was a TMZ thing where he was like, I'm gonna come back 110%, which I thought was cool. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
where that was or what the circumstances were.
Mm-hmm.
But JC's doing great, I think.
Yeah. A lot of Trey McKitty questions.
I haven't gotten that far down yet. Jacob coming back again. Nas was the backup returner last year, with Davis being a tiny boy and susceptible to injury. Who is the backup? Let's see, because Bryce Callahan was like their third returner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I
he was their third option.
Jalen Guyton has done some work in the past, but he's coming off of an injury. I know Larry Roundtree was a kickoff returner. I would not advocate for doing that again.
Who's the backup? I guess if it's kickoff returner, so your blockers, if they keep the same ones, are Xander and Kelly. So those are your, if they keep the same ones. So I think they're off the table. I pray it's not Roundtree, nor do I think they even gave him an option.
No, not last year. That was obviously
Not a
under
real
Swinton.
one.
I think Jasir Taylor did some return work in college, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't mind that. Was Josh Palmer played a lot of gunner his rookie year.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was a returner. Yeah, I don't know. Pokey Williams in the practice squad. And then when I looked at Pokey Williams' RAS.
Is it bad?
Yeah. It's not great. Let me see. I think it's a 1 something kind of RAS. It's
Yikes.
Yeah, not the best.
I'm trying to think of who else it would be, because Telesco said that they were looking to add multiple bodies in there, but unless it's one of the undrafted free agents, and I think one of the undrafted running backs has some experience.
I mean, they should at least try Spiller, because then you could justify him even being active. Like, get him out there as a returner or something, because you need him to be on the team.
I'm trying to remember if I'm missing anybody. Has Kelly ever returned?
I think Kick returns, but again, he's a blocker. He's gonna be a blocker for them unless they switch it up.
Right. I'm just saying. I just wasn't sure if he had returned.
Tough question, Jacob. We weren't prepared for this one today.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at this one. I would imagine it's they'll do some kind of combination of other players. Last year, like, I didn't know that Bryce Callahan had ever returned punts, and then they threw him back there in training camp, and I think in one of the preseason games he was like warming up for it, because DeAndre Carter was like had a hamstring injury or something like that and wasn't like 100%. So we'll have to look into that one. Sims World wants to know, what is one position battle y'all are looking forward to seeing unfold during training camp?
I'm enough of a weirdo to say interior guard backup spot. Like, I don't know. Like, we got Hymas, you have McFadden, so I think that's a decent one. Do they have a backup? Do they have an undrafted free agent guard? No, just the tackle, I think, with Millsap.
Yeah.
And he's playing tackle for them. And then you have, if he plays,
Zach Bailey would be like the
right. Yeah, that'd be a good one. I don't know, because like interior defensive line's either settled or injured. I guess safety, because I don't know who Derwin James' official running mate is, and there's 3 different guys that they could use for different reasons. Although Raheem Lane, I think, is Derwin James' backup, like, period, right now, because he's more of like the strong safety type. So it's really between Gilman and Woods. But that's a big one. You have the 6th rounder with limited-ish athletic ability, who they have never really wanted to put out there. He's the most scheme sound, versus the guy with all the upside that they drafted in the 3rd round that is not scheme sound right now. So yeah, that'd be a big one.
Yeah, I'm curious about linebacker. Like, I think they're gonna give Kenneth Murray the opportunity, right? But like, if Deion Henley is just like, you have to play this guy right away, I'm curious how that unfolds. You talked about safety, and we talked a little bit about the wide receiver 3 spot. I want to
2v2.
I don't think that's going to be a battle. I think Stick has that in the bag, but I want to see how the Asante Samuel Jr. and Jasir Taylor thing unfolds in camp because they have not really moved Asante around a ton. Like that first week when he was a rookie, he played a little bit in the slot. I'm very curious about that one. That's a spot that I think has gone a little bit under the radar in terms of like a battle that needs to be watched.
Yeah. There'll be some good ones this year. What was last year's big battle? That tackle, I guess, right? But that's clearly solved now.
That was the most notable one.
That was horrendous. That was so bad to watch. It made me appreciate Micah Parsons so much. After the 4th sack he had, I was like, yeah, he's pretty good. I was horrified for our offensive line. That's where I basically gave up because Lawrence and Parsons were killing Pipkins and Norton. And again, lo and behold, Pipkins is a really good tackle.
Came a long way. Apparently, fitness meant Justin Jackson, not JC Jackson.
He's welcome back. Again, some people said that he was unrosterable last year, and I'm pretty sure at some point after watching some of those snaps from some players, he felt very rosterable at that time.
Yeah, we were also told from the certain previous special teams coordinator that he didn't provide enough special teams value, and then he went and averaged like 27 yards per kickoff return for the Lions last year.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that part. That's great. That's even more fun. Nice. Right? Cool. Micah Pittman. Yeah.
Nice. Let's go. I gotta go look at that.
Who's that?
I'll look at that later. Michael Pittman's younger brother, I think.
Oh, okay. Because his dad is Micah. Dumb, an idiot. Cool. We got Bronny James. Bronny Williams. Caleb Williams, Bronny James.
Now USC's has had a good time.
Yeah, not bad. LDE Bruin, yeah. Steven Anderson is more than welcome back, but that's not who they're interested in.
Yeah, that's huge because Utah's wide receiver room is trash. So,
who's the big European tight end dude that you guys have or whatever?
Oh, he's Australian. His name's Thomas Yasmin. He's gonna be a lot of fun this year, man. Like, I mean, he was stuck behind Dalton and Brant Keithy and was not playing a whole lot. Like, he was on the fence about even playing last season because he used to be a professional rugby player in Australia, and he already had his college degree, and he was kind of sick of like not playing a whole lot. Then obviously everybody kind of got injured, and he had like 600 yards and 6 touchdowns in like the last 4 games of the season. So
yeah,
that's a draft sleeper to keep an eye on. They'll use Brant Keithy a lot, but Thomas Yasmin is a big yards after catch guy, physical blocker type. So he's somebody people should keep an eye on.
All right, before I just got to address Brandon's question about favorite Pokemon game. If we're talking about like the series, not like Pokemon Stadium or whatever, Pokemon Crystal Clear has been a ton of fun. That's like a hack where you get to play a completely different, like all 16 gyms version where you can start wherever you want, move wherever you want. That's fun. Obviously, Soul Silver, Heart Gold's amazing. Emerald. I've really come to like Pokemon Black or White too. That's a lot of fun. And really any Nuzlocke from there. So yeah, there's the Pokemon question of the day.
Yeah, don't play. Not a big. I generally do not play a lot of video games. When I was in high school, I would play like my friends and I would do like Madden tournaments or like NBA tournaments, or we would play like Call of Duty Zombies. For me, it was always more of like a social thing. Like I'll go hang out with my friends and do it. But nowadays, it's like I don't play video games on my own. Like that's just not my thing.
Yeah. As soon as when I was 16, I got a job, and as soon as that hit, it was like, okay, video games are basically over at that point. So occasionally I'll run through like a Nuzlocke on Pokemon or whatever on my phone because I can play it on my phone. But that's it. I don't have a single console in my apartment or anything. So yeah, sorry. Okay, can continue to hijack the show. ET44A, favorite Pokemon starter. Jeez Louise. Okay, so disclosure, I haven't played past Black 2 or White 2 or whatever, so I don't know about the new guys. Totodile was my favorite for a while because of the cartoon. I thought he was just a complete chaos monster, and he was fun. I tend to like the water starters. I think overall Mudkip's my favorite because that's when they kind of got that water ground. Eventually, when he evolved to Swampert, that water ground dual typing. So yeah, that one. All right, that's the end of the Pokemon. I promise, unless you pay for a question, in which case I'll keep going. But
Yeah,
that's it for
no,
Pokemon.
that's okay. It's all good. There was somebody, I think it was James or Kareem, I can't remember, asked about camping like much earlier. I hate camping and I refuse to go camping. So
Really?
yeah, I hate camping.
Why?
I think it's boring. Like I don't want to go like be in the wilderness for, you know, an extended amount of time. Like I would rather just like go to the beach and go in a hotel.
Dang. Um, I haven't camped for a while. I literally have no time, but
Yeah.
I do like camping. I grew up camping quite a bit, and like camping, not glamping. Um,
No.
my mom loves glamping, right?
If
Or
you're gonna
getting
do
the
glamping, you might as well just go to a hotel. You know what I mean?
yeah, but every year like my mom gets this, or my parents get this really nice cabin or something. So I've mostly glamped at this point.
Oh, cabins
Um,
are fine. Cabins are
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like if you're asking me if I will go to a cabin and go to a lake, yeah, 100%. But if you're just like, oh, go camping in the mountains, like no, not doing that.
Yeah, fitness has an offer. Come camping with me. We can cuddle and spoon. Can I bring my dog at least?
Yeah, funny. All right, we'll get to some other back to some other questions here. Casey Boyette. I don't know. I'm sorry if I apologize for that. He says, with Moore as the OC and what appears to be a solid O line, where do the Chargers finish in total rushing at year's end?
I feel like overall, somewhere in the middle in terms of efficiency, probably in the top 10 if everyone's healthy.
Yeah,
But that's not going to be the focus. So I think they'll be more efficient. I think they'll be better. I think the numbers should be better overall. But now that I don't think they're going to be like in the top 10, and that's fine. I just want them to be not 29th. We're back
yeah.
to special teams expectations.
We're back to the special teams. Yeah. In terms of total yards, like this is Justin Herbert's team. I mean, they just drafted a receiver in the first round. Like they're not going to be, you know, a top 5 in total yards rushing. But you know, in terms of like EPA per play and DVOA, like in 2021, they were I think 12th and 14th in those metrics. Like that would be an amazing outcome for the Chargers if Kellen Moore can get them back to, you know, hovering around top 10 efficiency. Like that would be fantastic.
Yep.
Um, Alex in the chat, I heard the Sixers won, so congrats. He says, would you rather have 3 QBs on the roster and never eat pizza again, or roster 4 running backs and you can never sneeze into your elbow in public?
Okay, I'm slightly rearranging everything in my head here. I want the option where I get to sneeze into my elbow because, I mean, literally the last show I was on a couple of Benadryl trying to get through it. So I need to be able to sneeze. Pizza, I can avoid pizza. That's fine. There's plenty of other options out there. But I need to be able to sneeze into my elbow.
I'm taking the pizza, man. I love pizza. I cannot live without pizza, so that's my choice.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so
never mind. Continue.
I was gonna say we'll do some more questions here on a rapid fire setting, maybe. So if you haven't asked a question yet, feel free and do so. Scott wants to know over under 3.5 sacks for Thule in 2023.
Ooh.
That's
Okay,
a good line.
let me check Chris Rump's. It wasn't 3.5.
No.
Okay. Are we counting this as Pro Football Focus where they do count half ones? Because that kind of changes things a bit here. You know, there's no, let's say they don't count half ones, but they count
do.
them as full
If you have a
ones.
half, they count it as a full. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rumpf had 2 last year, which might be 1.5. Geez Louise. Let's go over because you can also rush him standing up, so maybe he gets some action there. Yeah, let's go over.
What would we classify like best case scenario for Thule if Mac and Bosa are like relatively healthy this year.
Best case in terms of sacks or just
Yeah. Because Kyle Van Noy, I mean,
feel
Kyle
like
Van Noy had what, 6 last year?
I feel like he had 6 in like the final 5 games practically. I'll look it up.
Yeah, but he went a long time without a sack.
Right. So okay, so he actually ended up with 5, but it was 5 to close out the season.
Yeah.
And then I think 1 in Jacksonville, or at least the pass breakup for a pick. So I'd say like 6 is a best case scenario, but
Yeah.
it's just like that's 6 plays, and maybe they're huge plays. I would look for more like I'd love to see like 30 pressures as a best case scenario, which would be amazing. Like having
Yeah.
2-ish pressures a game from him, run stop here and there, if everybody's healthy, would be great.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna take the over. I think if you asked me if this were like 4.5, I would probably be a little bit more hesitant there. Brandon Arias' favorite zombie map. I love the Alcatraz option. That was a lot of fun. I forget the one where you have to like hop on the bus and move around.
I don't know.
I haven't played it in a very long time. How many receivers do you see the Chargers carrying this year? I think it's going to be 6. I think Jalen Guyton is too important to not make the roster.
Yeah, they might do some weird switcheroo where Guyton like goes on an IR or something, but otherwise it should be 6. I don't see anyone else on the undrafted free agent list pushing them, but I think it's 6. And I mean, I guess heck, like they did keep Keelan Doss. They do have the other guy. Who's the faster guy? Hightower. So maybe like if Guyton's not already one of those guys could jump in, but I think it'll be 6, and they should.
Yeah. Unless Jalen Guyton is just like not healthy, I think he makes the roster.
Yeah, I agree.
And as LD Bruin points out, Herbert loves Guyton as well, so that's it's one of the reasons why he was brought back. All right, guys, a couple more questions here, so go ahead and fire away. I'm officially caught up with the chat now, so
all right, who's starting more games, Murray or Henley? That's a tougher one than who starts the season.
I'm still gonna say Murray for now.
I would say Murray. It depends on the health, right? But he like rebounds really well from his injuries, even just like mid game. I'll say Murray though. I think they're gonna, even if they do a transition at the end of the year, I think it's still like that's enough games that Murray has played. And we haven't seen Henley play in the NFL, so we have no idea what he's going to look like. It could be worse.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I think Henley probably needs an injury in front of him to be more here.
Thank you, Fitness, for the $1 super chat. I'm not actually going to cuddle with you, but I appreciate that $1. $2.
Trying to make sure I didn't miss any questions. Rodrigo wants to know Mexican food or Korean barbecue.
Mexican food.
I agree.
I think Korean barbecue is really good. Don't get me wrong. And shout out to whoever was the amazing soul who gave Arjun and I Korean barbecue for free at the Rams game on New Year's. I appreciate you.
Nice.
But no, Mexican food. I think it's more varied. Like, maybe one dish to another equal, but Mexican food I think is more varied and better overall.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody listening in the Central Valley have any Korean barbecue recommendations for the Central Valley? Let me know.
Follow-up question: is there any good Korean barbecue in the Central Valley? How many Koreans are in the Central Valley? Is my next question.
I don't know. I have not found a good Korean barbecue place here in Fresno, though. But I've only lived here for 4 years, so lots of good Mexican places, though.
I'm sure.
Yeah. More tackles, Kendricks or Derwin? I'll say Kendricks.
I would also say Kendricks. He's been so consistent with his health overall too, and that's like if he weren't last year, maybe. But I think Kendricks. I do want Derwin James to have that like return to rookie season where he just was like, it's so weird because Derwin James is so good, does so many things, and yet like there's just nothing like that rookie season. Maybe it's because it was a surprise, but I would want to see like more games like that every week.
Yeah. where he's not asked to be like linebacker 1, safety 1, slot corner 1, edge rusher 3. Like, that'd be
Yeah,
nice.
he might have to with this safety room.
True. Joshua S says nothing like Bakersfield sushi. I can't say I'd want to go eat sushi in Bakersfield. I'm very picky about sushi in the first place, and if you're not like literally right on the beach, I will not eat sushi from your restaurant.
Yeah. Back when my fiance lived in Orange, we used to go to somewhere in Orange to eat sushi. It wasn't bad. It's close enough, but yeah, the best sushi I've ever had is at Nobu, and that is right next to the water. Delicious stuff.
When I lived in Utah, my college friends were always like, "Oh, let's go get sushi," and I'm like, "We're like 12 hours away from the ocean. Why do I want to get sushi when we're in the mountains? Like that doesn't make any sense to me."
Good salmon sushi, maybe.
Yeah.
Something from the river. Is that where you get salmon? Yeah, salmon at the river.
The mountains, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Christoph, more primetime games, Jets, Jags, or Bolts? I think it's going to be the Jets, man. I think, New York market, Aaron Rodgers coming in. I think the Jets are going to get the maximum amount of primetime games.
Really? I guess it is New York, but
and it's Aaron, man. Like, this has been like the biggest story of the offseason. Like, they're going to pepper them with primetime games.
I'll go Chargers for this one. I think I don't know. Aaron Rodgers to Randall Cobb. I guess.
I mean, Randall Cobb's like their sixth receiver, though.
That's a joke. I think let's say it's a tie. I'll settle it tied.
Yeah. I do think the Jaguars are definitely getting more. I think last year they only had 1. So I think the Jags probably get 3 or 4 this year.
Yeah. Well, they really did a good job the last time they were on primetime.
All right. Bold Boy Tommy, when will we hear any Eckler news? I don't think you're going to. I think he's going to be on the Chargers. I think they might come to some agreement in training camp to like give him some more guaranteed money. But at this point in time, I'd be very shocked if they traded him.
Yeah. I think they didn't even add a running back. It's not even like they find like a 6th round guy.
Right.
And then you could convince yourself. Again, I guess they could just trade him and add Zeke. But yeah, I think Eckler's here to stay. And again, I think they're going to give him 1 billion touches, let his legs fall off, and then he'll leave. I think that's that's kind of what they've been doing. So I think they're just going to use him until someone else steps up behind him, which we don't know. And I think they're just going to get rid of him next year.
Yeah. I think that's very likely. GTR, man, is Herbert on your podcast a possibility? Hey, man, I didn't think we'd be interviewing Tom Telesco. So, maybe. But we also know that Justin Herbert hates going on media appearances. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's not impossible, right? Because we literally just interviewed Tom Telesco, which I didn't expect at all.
Definitely not.
So I guess it is not impossible, but I also don't want to I don't want to ask him. I know he doesn't like doing this. So I wouldn't want to bug him. He'd be good to talk to. I would just ask him biology questions or something.
He probably would love that though. That's probably what he wants to be asked about.
Yeah, it's what's a mitochondria, Justin? What is that? What does it do? Let's see if you really earned that 4.01.
Yeah. Isn't that one of the things that you most cover in basic biology though?
Oh yeah, well that's what's mitochondria? The powerhouse of the cell.
Right.
That's kind of the running joke, but we got to start somewhere. So
yeah, appreciate Tyler's dad in the chat super sticker.
You can ask a question, Dad. I will respond, even if it's about the Raiders.
All right, couple other questions, if there are anyone.
Oh, sorry. Find one.
Which one did you post?
Oh, sorry. Someone is asking who were you interviewing first? I don't know. It seems like we're gonna get to everybody. It's people are traveling right now, so it's kind of just in some order. We'll circle on and get to people, but let's go on Tuesday. So I don't know how we did that. That's happening on Tuesday.
Yeah. I think they're working on one of the draft prospects, but everybody's, like Tyler said, is traveling to LA this week. So rookie minicamp is this week for the Chargers. So hopefully we get some good takeaways there. Joshua S. Can we sign Kareem Hunt? He does not pass the character metrics at all.
Can you? Yes. Will you? No.
Yeah.
Dad, will the Chargers sweep the Raiders? Yes.
All right. There you go. I was going to say no.
Well, I said that. I think I've said the last 2 years, and then they've ripped my heart out twice. So, but I'll say that yes this year.
Their roster is not very good, so they should sweep them. But
said that week 18. Said that last year. Yeah, definitely.
Somebody said we should ask her if he's dating anyone. No.
Yeah, pass. I won't ask him if he lifts.
Oh, Tyler's got a big week outside of the podcast too.
What am I doing? Oh, yeah. My mom's asking who's going tuck shopping this week. Yes, I am going tuck shopping this week, doing the marriage thing in about 2 months and have that mostly all settled. So it's getting here,
Yeah.
I mean, we've been dating since 2015 and here we are. Now we're getting married 2023. Thanks, Christian. What a nice way to end the podcast.
I know. Thanks for the super chat. What are we doing when we finish last in the West? They're not. I mean, come on. Like, let's be real. Let's be real about where the Broncos and Raiders are at.
I don't think they're finishing last. I don't think it's impossible that the Broncos would finish ahead of the Chargers. I'm not I'll say it right now. I'm not picking the Chargers to beat the Chiefs this year in the AFC West. Sorry. I keep falling for that. Trust me. I believe in the Chargers. I want them to so bad. And every stinking year, no matter who this team is, it's always the Chiefs. So I'm just apologizing ahead of time unless Mahomes decides to move to Thailand and hit up wherever what's his face went. Then I think the Chargers are going to finish behind the Chiefs. And that's okay.
He's the USC offensive coordinator now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. But they're not finishing last. I think the Chargers are firmly in that wild card picture, along with like the Dolphins and the Jets, the Patriots, the Steelers. I mean, the AFC wild card picture this year is going to be crazy, man. Like, we know this, like, everybody just kind of assumes that it's going to be certain teams, right? But like every year, the Steelers and the Patriots make it interesting. And I know that the Patriots have kind of an underwhelming offense, but if you go look at that defensive depth chart, man, they got a lot of studs on that side of the ball. And Bill Belichick is, one of the best in the business, obviously, for a reason. So there's going to be 2-3 really good teams in the AFC that do not make the playoffs. And, obviously we hope it's not the Chargers. So AFC is going to be a bloodbath this year.
Yeah, it really will be. And I'm very curious to see what the Patriots do this year because they've certainly built themselves a team mostly overall. Christian Gonzalez, Keon White, Marte Mapu. I don't know the other guys, but still, like Christian Gonzalez at 17 is still one of the biggest question marks that I can think of.
Still crazy, man. I still can't believe that happened.
No, I have no reason to consider him a character thing or whatever. That one surprised me. But again, like, if the Lions want a running back, the Lions want a running back and a linebacker. So more power to him, I guess. It happens, I suppose. I mean, didn't Derwin fall to 17?
Yeah. But that was also like medical. I mean, safety was not super valuable at that point in time. A guy like Christian Gonzalez falling to 17 is unheard of. A top 2 consensus corner going to 17 is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Circling back here as well, Scott said the expectations should be second. I agree with that. I think that is definitely a fair way of phrasing things.
Yeah, expectations should be second. They need to win at least one game in the postseason to keep this regime together.
Bold prediction for this upcoming season in terms of like player wise, he's gotten a ton of hate, but I think Joey Bosa sets a career record for sacks this year.
Ooh. I don't hate that.
I think that would have to be like 13 at least, if I'm not mistaken.
It's definitely not a big number. He's always been more an efficiency guy than a big sack number guy. Let me see.
Yeah.
What is Joey Bosa's totals? I think you're right though. I think 13 and a half or 12 and a half was his max. Let me see. 12, 13 in 2017. It's been that long.
Okay, so he would have to get at least 13 and a half then, but I know that everybody's extremely low on him, and I understand like the season did not end great for him, but I think Joey with this defensive line is going to get a lot of one-on-ones, and I think we've seen this pattern from him where he alternates years where he's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to play 15, 16 games this year, and I think he's going to get 14, 15 sacks this year.
I think if it's anything like what we saw to end the season, and with a better offensive coordinator, I think Keenan Allen's going to push for All Pro this year.
Yeah, I like that one too. I like fantasy wise, I saw this, but he's like
50th
going in like 50s, 60s on Underdog Fantasy right now. I'm like, you guys are crazy, man. And he's gonna get more vertical routes this year. He's still Justin Herbert's guy, like and if he plays the majority of the season, which same kind of thing with him. We've seen that he kind of struggled with injuries in 2020, and then 2021 he played every game except for one because of COVID. This year he'll play 16, 17 games again. He's going to put up some numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Chris says 13 sacks and 0 slammed helmets. That's the goal for Joey Bosa this year.
Yeah. Again, not defending that behavior at all. Joey definitely messed up in that instance, but he's still a dude on the defense, man. Like his film in 2021, even though he didn't like put up elite sack numbers, was so good. And getting a full season with Khalil and Morgan Fox and all these guys is going to be great for him.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good place to stop for today. So appreciate all the questions today. You guys had some great ones, some great conversations. A lot of people in the chat today, which was good to see as well. So like I said earlier, make sure and stay tuned on Tuesday for our interview with Tom Telesco. Thursday, we'll be going live to break down every little nook and cranny of the Chargers schedule release and maybe do some predictions for win-loss total. We'll see, how we're feeling that day, but should be a fun week. And then we get rookie mini camp as well. So the dead season has not hit us yet. There's still some good content to come. So hopefully you guys are tuning in down the road. So Tyler, appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you everybody for tuning in. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time.